Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast IT Coach for Small Business Leaders. I'm your co-host Josh Davis, VP of Marketing at Infosystems, and with me as always is Aaron Swan, Virtual CIO at Infosystems and the IT Coach for Small Business Leaders.
Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. So Aaron, what are we going to talk about on today's episode?
Well, Josh, we're going to continue our series on managed services that we've been on for, I think, 3 episodes so far?
I thought you were going to say 3 years.
3, well, seems that way sometimes. Yeah. We're going to continue that today, and we're going to be talking about workstations, or probably more appropriately, the term we should use is endpoints. I think I find myself gravitating to workstations, but endpoints. And by that I mean the point of the system that your users are most likely to be using, whether that be a PC, a tablet, a terminal, or in some cases perhaps even a mobile phone.
Yeah, so a lot of people probably don't use the term workstation. So machine is something
Sure.
I hear commonly used. I got to go get my machine, my laptop, my PC, my
Sometimes my hard drive, which that one drives me crazy. But
yeah,
but those are the terms that you hear.
Good stuff. So what are we going to talk about it?
So we're going to talk about endpoints and how they can be managed and some things that could include. So, right off the bat, one of the things I would say is if you have a managed services contract on your endpoint, some things that might include, one might be help desk to the end user. So the end user might have the ability to, whether it's by phone, whether it's by email, whether it's by clicking an icon on the desktop, get some help with the application that they're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be thing one would be help desk to the end user. Patch management certainly comes into play, the ability to keep that endpoint. When we think about it, a lot of work that's done on IT systems is behind the scenes, the back office stuff, the servers and the switches. And certainly those are very important to keep up with because they affect the whole network and the health for everyone. But it's just as important to keep up with the patching on those individual PCs, even though each one only affects one person collectively. Again, they're affecting your whole company, and a lot of vulnerabilities are targeted at PCs. So it's super important to keep those patches up to date, look for those vulnerabilities and patch against them.
Well, that's interesting too, because I think when companies, especially small businesses that don't really see themselves as having a really complex IT environment, maybe they don't have a server room with servers and storage networks and all of this stuff operating. Maybe they use a lot of cloud applications and things like that. Still need managed services when it comes to the actual PCs that the users of the company are using.
Sure.
Because believe it or not, something as small as a mobile phone is actually a really powerful computer, in today's standards. Yeah. And so, it's a complex thing, and it requires updates, patches, like you say, a lot of management that, if left up to the user of that machine or that endpoint, might not get done.
Right, because it's not top of mind, right? They're using the endpoint to do their job.
Yeah.
And so they're not thinking about, I need to maintain this tool that I'm using. So that's where managed services come in, is to help maintain the tool. So along with keeping things patched, a very basic one sometimes is just the idea of inventory, hardware inventory in particular for those PCs. If you think about if you're of any size at all, you start having 100, 200, 300 endpoints in your environment, it's really easy to lose track of when I bought what, and who it belongs to and where it should be right now. So hardware inventory comes into place. Lifecycle management is kind of tied to that as well. The idea that I bought this PC for this user, 5 years goes by in a blink, right? Are you like me? The older you get, the faster the years go by.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So, it goes by in a blink, and it's time to replace that PC and keep it up. And so having those endpoints under some type of contract where they're being managed, you get some warning about that and know that and have a plan in place to be able to rotate them out. I would suggest, if you're of any size at all, you probably don't want to be rotating all your PCs all at the same time, because that's pretty disruptive. A lot of times we'll work with companies and do a third at a time, right? A third of them get rotated out on a rotating basis. So
we'll be back with the IT Coach for Small Business Leaders podcast after we pause for this special message. Did you know that you can book a personal IT strategy session with Aaron Swan, host of the IT Coach for Small Business Leaders podcast? We created this podcast to be a valuable resource for small business leaders in our community, but we wanted to take it one step further. You can book a free meeting with Aaron Swan to review your IT strategy and help build a plan that will lead to IT success. Just visit our website at www.infosystems.biz, follow the link to book your IT strategy session, and you'll be able to work directly with Aaron to build your IT success strategy. Now back to the podcast. A couple of things on the inventory management. I love the planning aspect of inventory management. I'm a big fan of plans. I'm a marketing person. I have a marketing plan for our company that I abide by, and I can't imagine, I just think about from the perspective of if I want our company to be the most successful, I have to have a goal and a plan. That applies to every department across the board. So with IT, if you don't have goals for the company that IT supports and then IT plans to reach those goals, then you're probably going to fall short in some way or another. And, so when it comes to something as simple as having a plan for keeping your laptops or devices that your users are using to do their job current and refreshed on a regular cycle, not only does that make sure, it helps ensure that you're not going to get a lot of out-of-service devices that break, that disrupt somebody's day. But in my opinion, it also boosts company morale, because every time one of your employees gets a new device, a new PC or a new phone or a new tablet to do their job, that's a big morale boost, knowing that my company is trying to provide me the best tools possible.
It absolutely is. I'm glad you brought that point up. I was sitting here thinking about that. Just office politics plays into the whole situation as well. I can't tell you how many times you go into companies and you hear just this little undertone of bitterness about, Josh got a brand new PC and he's only been here for 5 years and I've been here for 10 years and my machine is really old. And so, it just gets into office politics and it does affect morale. So, having a plan that's just systematic and you're replacing these things as technology continues to advance in a systematic way just makes a lot of sense. But it goes back to what you said, you have to have a plan and something to manage that.
Yeah.
So continuing on, some other things that could be included, in the other parts that we do managed services on servers, firewalls, things like that, it's very typical to be monitoring, is it up, is it down? I will say for the majority of PCs or endpoints down there, that's probably not something you need to do, monitor, because the user knows if it's up, if they're using it or not.
Yeah.
But there are some circumstances, sometimes you'll have an endpoint that's controlling a particular peripheral, whether it be a printer or plotter or some type of security device. It's important that device stay up all the time. So we can provide monitoring whether they're up or not. And then just general health. How's that endpoint performing in terms of, the user may say, wow, this is really slow. And they may notice it, and they may or may not say anything. They may just think, well, I just have a slow PC. And it could be that PC would be fine if it just got a little tweaking. Maybe it's low on hard drive space. It's low on RAM or something like that. And so monitoring can catch those things and deal with them before it becomes a real problem.
Well, and again, that can be a morale booster for employees if they don't have someone to call to get help with something as simple as my computer takes forever to boot up every day.
Right.
and it's moving so slowly. What's the problem here? And if they don't have a way to address that, then it's something they have to deal with day in and day out. Not only does it affect their work performance, but that's a morale killer. If they have someone that they can call to quickly get help, address the issue, then problem solved. I can get back to work, and I feel good about my company supporting me.
Right. And the last thing I would say is it's just general maintenance, housekeeping on a PC, whether it be, it used to be the big thing was defragging hard drives. And depending on your hard drive, you might still do that. Today's solid state drives, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
That's not really a positive for them in most cases. Whether it be getting rid of temporary files, removing remnants of patch installations, or just debris that accumulates on your hard drive over time. There's some scripting that can go on to help keep your system running as efficiently as possible.
You mentioned the defragging hard drives. I haven't thought about that in so long.
Right.
It's, I mean, probably because it's not really a thing anymore, at least for the PCs that I've been using that have the solid state drives. But I used to remember on my old Dell laptop, doing the defrag, and it would take like hours and hours and hours, and you would see this little progress bar slowly move over like 8 or 10 hours worth of. Oh man, what a pain. Computers have come a long way.
Right, because those kinds of things can now be done in the background, and you can still be operating.
Yeah.
Things have changed. So, great point. Things have come a long way within the endpoint market, but there's still many things that keeping them managed can really help you be the most productive. Last thing I'll say is you don't think about this as much with PCs, but certainly with more mobile devices, tablets, phones in particular. Another thing you can do with the managed services is there's a whole category called MDM, or mobile device management.
Mm-hmm.
And just the idea of you can take that a step further and even be able to control what people can do with those devices as it pertains to company data, or even be able to, those devices are the ones that are most likely to get lost or stolen.
Mm-hmm.
So have the ability to even remote wipe those in the case that they are, in case they get gone in some way.
I think that's a big deal that doesn't get talked about enough, is the mobile device management aspect of IT. Because, I mean, what company employee that has access to a corporate email account and things like that does not use it on their phone?
Right.
Everybody does.
Absolutely.
And so if I lost my phone and there were no security policies implemented on my phone, a secure login method, the ability to remote wipe it, should I lose it, things like that, I mean, that could easily cause major problems. Something as simple as I left my phone sitting at a coffee shop or in a taxi cab, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, just two things that I would say that are just the bare minimum of security for those devices that you can implement through policy from your company is, one, requiring them to use a lock of some sort.
Yeah.
I would think most people would want to do that nowadays, but I still run into people that don't even have a simple passcode lock.
Yeah.
Today with biometrics, it's so easy with fingerprints or face scan or something like that. So, but having that in place, and then having the ability to remote wipe it in case it does get lost.
Yep. Great stuff.
That's, in a nutshell, what we want to talk about for endpoints. And so next time we're going to be talking about software, some software that may run on the devices themselves, or it may be cloud-based software, and how those systems can also be monitored to keep them operating as efficiently as possible.
That's great. And just as a reminder, we're talking about managed services.
Right.
As it applies to, several different, we've talked about firewalls and network and switch and all this different components of managed services. So today's topic, endpoints, I just want to again reiterate that Infosystems has I guess you would call it a packaged or, a planned managed service offering that when we onboard new customers, it's almost like a well-oiled machine, like a checklist of things that we do where we come in and address all of these issues, and companies just don't even have to worry about these things anymore. I want to make sure our listeners are aware of that, because a lot of times, we're not real salesy on this podcast. We just talk about IT topics.
Right.
But we do want our listeners to know that we talk about these things because they're important, and they're things that your IT people, if you have IT people, can do themselves. Many companies don't have IT people, or they don't want to burden the ones that they do have with basic tasks
Right.
that could easily be outsourced and are really not that expensive. So, I just wanted to take a quick pause there to, remind everybody, Infosystems has a fantastic managed services offering that touches all of these, topics that we've been talking about. So I do look forward to our next conversation about typical software platforms that are offered in a more managed offering. And I think that'll be really helpful for our listeners as well.
All right. Look forward to talking to you then.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right.